Welcome to Intelligent Human Leadership, leading yourself and your team. Do you ever find yourself grappling with a lack of confidence in your team? Or battling the relentless waves of concern and fear? Are the pressures to meet client expectations and the burden of missed opportunities weighing you down? On this podcast, you'll discover the strategies and insights that will reignite your team's morale and help you find the harmony and knowledge you seek to propel your business forward. Here, we explore innovative ways to reignite your creative spirit and achieve greatness, empowering you to lead with intelligence, compassion, and resilience. If you're ready to dive deep into your core of leadership challenges and be guided toward success, here's your host, founder of Steward Your Business, David Carr.
Welcome back to the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast. So grateful to have you once again. All right, guys. Well, we just came off a podcast episode on the leadership audit. If you missed that podcast, go back to it and listen to it because there's some really key points in there. We're talking about redefining leadership, reimagining it, if you will, going into 2025. And one theme that has come up with me in the last couple weeks, conversations I've been having with clients, potential clients, is this challenge of coming off nice or considerate, if you will. None of us typically want to be rude or demeaning, putting down people. I don't believe that's true. However, one area that we may struggle with, and I'm going to talk about my personal background here and experience here as a leader, is called nice guy syndrome. That's what I'm calling it. For you ladies out there, nice lady syndrome. But for guys in particular, you may have heard this syndrome before, or being a nice guy. I used to think being a nice guy was a good thing. I have since learned and adapted to realize it's really not a compliment, although sometimes I don't think people are meaning badly by saying, hey, you're a nice guy. But I think that word nice is misleading. And so I want to dive into this episode. In one of the areas we talked about last episode was communication and execution. Those two areas are greatly affected if you're showing up purely as a nice person rather than a kind person. I had another conversation that with a colleague that we'll be talking on having her on the Business Roundtable podcast. We'll dive deeper into that. So if you guys are interested, look up the Business Roundtable podcast as well. I'll always appreciate you guys joining me there. But in this podcast episode, I want to break through this nice guy, where you're particularly maybe averse to conflict. You have self-doubt, internal challenges as to how to communicate and lead your team effectively. Here on the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast, we're all about empowering you to lead yourself well and lead your team well, including your family, your community, your organization that you're a part of, whether it be for-profit, nonprofit. This is a place where you can learn, become educated, and apply this as soon as you listen to the podcast. And I always welcome your feedback and comments on that. So I found this working in the AEC industry, architecture, engineering, construction, environmental consulting. There is a place where we avoid conflict at times, and we try to please everyone, try to get along, and at the cost of effective leadership. There is a place where we want to get along, but there's also a place where we have to lean into the conflict. We have to lean into the collision, if you will. And I didn't do that in my business. I didn't do that in sometimes home life, honestly. And it hurt me more than it helped me in the long run. And that's where I want to help you today in this podcast episode. Again, I can't solve all the problems with a podcast, but I can certainly give you direction and help you avoid some of the mistakes I made. You can make some new ones, but help you avoid these ones where on your own journey. And this can happen anywhere along your journey, but I found this particularly at the beginning stages of a manager or leader, supervisor, where you're trying to avoid conflict, trying to get along, and that can hurt you. It affect how you make decisions, which could result in project delays, team confusion. I've definitely seen that. And again, ineffective leadership. We want to be having you have the most effective, influential leadership that you can, so that people follow you. People follow leaders that are effective. They are influential. They don't undermine their authority and responsibilities that are bestowed upon them. So one way we have done this, and I've learned the hard way with being a nice guy, is what happens is you are not clear, you're not direct, you don't lean into the problem. So what happens is it sits there, it ebbs a little bit, it doesn't get resolved. And any of you that have had like a cut, an open wound that doesn't heal properly and doesn't get the attention that it needs, it can go on and on and on. And it's kind of like cancer in the sense of it affects it's not just me, it affects other people in the team, their effectiveness. And so morale may decrease. For me, there's one of these things that has come up where you have a policy, let's just say, getting timesheets and expenses in, because this is one that comes up often. Just getting things in a timely manner, where most of the people, I'd say 90% of the people are doing it, and you have stragglers that are not doing that. And what happens is you're just like, oh, it's okay. You try to make excuses. You don't want to have to really confront them, and where they're not being committed and following through what they agreed to when they started the job. Everyone said, hey, this is a responsibility. You need to meet this. And what happens is if you keep doing that, and other people are like, I'm putting my time in every week, I'm making sure I've got all that checked off and submitted, and then you have other people that aren't, it really is discouraging for the people that are doing well. And they, again, don't look at you as an effective leader. They look at your kind of inept, if you will, to a certain degree, like you feel like you're getting taken advantage of. And so it's not a good place to be when you're allowing bad behaviors to continue because you don't feel good about yourself, you have self-doubt, you have fear of conflict. And what happens, at least for me, is you start to have passive aggressive tendencies, or just, you're passive. And passivity is not a sign of a good leader. And one that I know I've struggled with, of being, again, that nice passive guy. I would agree to get along, and my agreement wasn't genuine, meaning like I wasn't really fully bought into, and I just said, oh, okay, yeah, sure, and that does not help move the team forward. It is agreeing, but it's not really leaning into the conflict, because you're just like, yeah, I agree. I don't going to say anything, but to move and keep it moving along. So this often is rooted in self-doubt. It's rooted in not understanding who you really are and what you have to bring and the value of who you are. And that's where we dive into that. And why you guys hear me talk about 5 voices, the warrior tools, we dig into who you are. And I know, I'm 50, almost 51. You'd think, hey, I know who I am by now. But the reality is we have evolutions of change. We are hopefully becoming a dynamic and transforming ourselves over time. So we're continuing to be renewed. And who you are at 20, 30, 40, it is, yes, there's elements that are consistent over time, but there's elements too that are adjusting based on your new awareness and understanding. You can think about this as you were a child, you thought like a child, you played like a child, and when you became that, you may have childlike aspects of your life, but there's different awareness and understanding. There is naivety that has been removed, and you've become, the veil has been lifted. You've been able to see this in a new way. Hopefully, and that's what we're here at the Intelligent Human Leadership Podcast, is to give you that wisdom, to empower and equip you. So, you may have a fear of being disliked. Facing that conflict can prevent you from really asserting the authority needed and weakening your leadership. And then that, of course, affects missed opportunities and others. We want you to be an assertive leader, not aggressive, not passive aggressive, but an assertive leader. An assertive leader is clear on the objective, the mission, what needs to happen, and they know that to do that, they have to have clear words. They have to have clearly written way of going, a mission, if you will. And so where we have that indecision, because that indecision is a decision by not deciding and just kind of leaving it out there is one, that really is going to affect how well you're going to lead and engage the team. For a big project that I worked on for many years, I was overseeing a large group of lead biological monitors, and they had also assistant biological monitors. It was really important that the leadership cascaded down, because if they didn't feel the support and the ability to lean into some challenges that they were facing, I had to lead. I had to go in there and say, okay, I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to lean into some of these challenges with the construction, scheduling, for example, working with a big utility. They had some initiatives and things that they wanted to do, and we had to figure out a way to navigate this together. But it was really hard because I worked on building that confidence and becoming that respected leader. Did I succeed every time? No, absolutely not. I learned over time, and that's what I infuse in my coaching and consulting. As steward your business, to steward yourself well and steward your business and team. It's the name. So how do we build confidence as a leader? How do we do that? Well, there's things that we can do where I use kind of my warrior tool for self-reflection, looking at the emotions and the feeling. You guys could look back at previous episodes about the stories that we're facing and what's coming alongside that. Because we need to be able to understand and really wrap our arms around who we are and what's happening around us and take inventory there. Take radical accountability. You might have heard that statement before, but when we take ownership or radical ownership of what's all around us, then we can affect those things. If we can't own those things, we can't realize that, oh, that's just stuff is just happening to me and I'm a victim, kind of like a leaf blowing in the wind. Well, that's going to be really challenging. And you're going to be this chameleon, if you will, trying to just fit in wherever you can. And that's a strategy. I don't think it's a long-term strategy. I really personally don't believe that's a strategy that you want to adapt to, because energetically it's going to zap you. You're trying to be a different person than you naturally are. So it takes understanding of who you are, where your strengths are, where your limitations are too. So when we set up those boundaries, we can then know how to clearly let people know how we can help them and also our limitations. So we're developing assertive communication skills. I mentioned in the last episode the Giant Leadership Audit. That's a tool that we can assess strengths and challenging areas for improvement with leaders, not just the individuals, but the organization itself. So we can look at, like I said, communication, execution, capacity. There's elements there in that flywheel that I mentioned in the last episode where we can help you make actionable changes in your leadership approach based on where there is issues there, where there might be drama, where there might be communication breakdowns. Again, you can rate yourself, and I can get on a one-on-one conversation with you in areas of communication, capacity, execution, using that framework, so that way you can start to build confidence. But if we don't understand a baseline, I had an episode earlier this year called Assessing Your Baseline. Where are you at in these different areas? If you're not clear, well, it's really hard to build off of that. What we want to do is get you clear. Are you being that nice guy or woman? Are you building on your foundation on sinking sand, or can we relay that foundation, strip away the things that aren't working, and get at the things that really are working for you? This process of discovery and understanding is one that takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, and it's one that through coaching and opening yourself up to the possibilities, you're able to develop those skills. I spent, many, many years now, through this journey of personal self-development, because what I realized as I stepped into being a manager, I started to lead other people. Number one, there's a big difference between management and leadership, but I realized that I had to be working on myself if I wanted anybody to come alongside me. And the nice guy strategies that I had developed over the course of my life was not getting me where I wanted to be. Now, some of these things are natural. You may have heard me talk about the connector voice. That's one of the 5 voices that you can take the free assessment for the 5 voices through my website. Message me and I'll send you the link. It's absolutely free. But one of those things is a connector. That's where I love to connect with people. And so I have a tendency to naturally just be warm and welcoming, but it can go too far into being just nice. And I realized that was not doing me well. It was harder for me to recognize that while I love to provide support, you might have heard me talk about the support challenge matrix in a previous episode as well, where we need both support and challenge. I was high on support. I love to help people, almost really to a fault, saying yes to so many things. Unfortunately, that hurt me because I was overcommitting. I was trying to be nice, trying to get along. I'll do this. Yeah, sure, no problem, right? And then it ended up biting me because I couldn't fulfill on what I said, and people were disappointed. Well, heck, what the heck? Well, you were being nice, but you weren't being authentic and telling them truly, like, I don't think I'm actually going to be able to meet that deadline, or this is my challenge, and being able to meet the ask that you're saying. For those of you that are that connector voice, you're going to have to lean into some conflict. You're going to have to lean into connection in this way. It actually is better to lean into it and be upfront about it than not. So another way I've seen as a strategy here of quote unquote being nice or avoiding conflict is just not saying anything. And that is not helpful either, particularly for those of you that have client relationships and you're like, there's a problem. I don't really want to say anything, so you just keep it quiet. And then this could go on for weeks or even months, and then you have a client knock on your door or email you, call you, what's going on with my project? What's going on? Well, why did you tell me this like months ago? Now I can't help you, or I can't help you as well as I could have if you would have told me these things. Because you're trying to I don't want to rock the boat here. Those are nurturers often also have this kind of tendency relationally where they just want the harmony, everybody to get along, and they're very quiet, and they don't speak up when they really need to be speaking up. And so these are things that I want you to start to be aware of. And we're going to dive deeper into this. Is like a 2-part episode, so I'm just kind of getting you the introductory component here of being aware. Number one, do you even realize that you're dealing with this being nice syndrome, where you're not truly being kind and not being truly your authentic self? You're showing up in a presented way of being to be accepted, like you're showing up this chameleon style, where it's energetically zapping you. It's not. You're filled with self-doubt. You have fear of conflict. You have anxiety about having the tough conversations. You don't even feel like there's maybe a safe space that you can do that. You can even address that. That's what I can help you with through Steward Yourself program, through the coaching, so that you're not alone, that you have somebody that has gone through this, has worked with many people, and has tools and resources, time-tested, that can help you get results in overcoming this. There's so much here that I just wanted to do an introductory episode here, and I haven't. This is my first 2-parter specific episode, but I wanted to encourage you along this way that you can overcome this. You can face the challenges that are part. Everybody faces some fear of and doubt of how am I going to overcome this challenge. But we can start to build confidence to becoming a more effective and assertive leader. And so I want to encourage you to reflect on your own internal leadership and those around you. And you guys can reach out to me, use the GLA, the Giant Leadership Audit tool, where we can identify areas for growth. In the next episode, we're going to deal with some things more externally and philosophically, these challenges of leadership and dealing with this nice guy syndrome. So in the meantime, I would love to have you like, subscribe, follow, leave a 5-star review. It'd be much appreciated. And knowing that you aren't alone, that you're here, reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation with you, and encourage you along this journey. You don't have to be stuck as the nice person, but you can become that assertive, effective leader, leading yourself well and leading your team. And so thank you so much again for listening, being a part of the journey. And until next time, take care, everybody. Talk to you soon.